Now, when it comes to Tasha K, things are about to get catastrophic. And I have to be straight with you before we even step one foot into this thing, because the Tasha K loyalists, the parasocial bloggers who built entire careers off of her recycled rumor mill, and the obsessive little corner of the internet that has been clinging to her crumbling brand for years, they have officially become one of the most delusional, willfully blind, and stomach-turning sub-communities I have ever seen orbiting this side of entertainment news, and they have this twitchy, almost pathological habit of swarming any honest breakdown of their fallen queen by drowning the comments in the same tired, copy-pasted, semi-literate slogans they have been recycling since 2022. Well, congratulations, they did it. They poked the wrong corner of the internet one too many times. They woke this conversation up. And I just have to say it right now, if you ever boosted a Tasha K clip, if you ever lined up at the door to consume her so-called exclusives, if you ever donated a single dollar to that doomed GoFundMe, you are not going to enjoy a word of this, because we are about to unpack some of the most catastrophic, most legally devastating, most flat-out humiliating failures the celebrity blogger universe has ever witnessed. And I am certain the loyalists are only going to get louder, more shrill, and more impossible to be around, so do me one favor before we get into this. Ride with me, smash that like button, hit the subscribe, and push this video up the algorithm. I have never needed it more than I do right now, because once you see what I am about to lay out, you are going to understand exactly why this story is bigger than anyone in the room is willing to admit. So with all of that said, let us actually get into it. Now as for Tasha K and this new federal warhead that just landed at her front door, and everything else this self-anointed cultural surgeon has been trying to do in her latest chapter of damage control, well, somewhere underneath the noise that the toxic tag team of Tasha K and her husband Cheick Ndikibe have been broadcasting whenever they hop on a radio show or a live stream to wave around fake confidence, this is what we are dealing with. Tasha K parading herself through interview after interview, laughing at the very judgment that already gutted her empire, then turning around and trying to convince the rest of us that we are the unstable ones, that we are running smear campaigns, that we are the obsessed ones. Well, I just want to remind you, this is the opposition. This is what we are pushing back on. This is why those likes matter. But when it comes to Tasha K and everything that is currently detonating around the Cardi B federal filing, and the propaganda fog and outright fabrications they keep pumping out to make you believe that they are somehow winning, somehow untouchable, somehow above the law, well, a huge portion of that case is built into the noise they have been screaming on every microphone they can find to make people believe anything other than the obvious truth, which is that Tasha K is not winning a single battle in this war, she is losing all of them at the same time. And one of the lines they have been leaning on the hardest, Exhibit A in the Modern Guide to Public Delusion, is the idea that the courts somehow handed her a mercy ruling, that the bankruptcy somehow saved her, that the reduced judgment was somehow a victory lap. They were telling us that the bankruptcy filing was the masterstroke, the chess move, the great escape. We were supposed to learn that the so-called blogger queen had outmaneuvered Barty, that the legal system bent in her favor, that the chapter was closed. That is what they told us last year when they tried to spin this so-called reset that they very conveniently want everybody to scrub from memory now. But that is not the point. And what is the point is, with this new federal filing, with this new wave of evidence, how did all of that confidence age? Well, we got the answer at the center of every single courtroom development that has rolled in around Tasha K in this case. At number one on that list, at the most damning place of them all, the place even her own attorneys would not be able to look you in the eye and defend, in no other location than Atlanta Federal Court, where the paperwork dated May 6, 2026 has now been entered into the record, the receipts have officially gone public. And if you are not familiar with what that filing contains, good. Because we are about to walk through it together, and you are going to see exactly how a woman who spent years telling the world she was untouchable ended up handing the prosecution the most polished, most gift-wrapped fraud case any plaintiff could ever dream of being handed. In this filing that Tasha K spends more time pretending does not exist than she does taking accountability for anything she has ever published, we get to see in real time how the courts are reacting to the alleged shadow operation she and her husband cooked up. And I am sure they wanted these documents buried, because with their faces stamped at the top of the complaint, with Cheick Ndikibe now sitting beside her as a named defendant, the whole shield they have been hiding behind has been ripped wide open. Tasha K is one of the most aggressive, most attention-starved, most chronically online personalities in the entire blogger space, and someone who has rapped, yelled, and lectured for years about how nobody could touch her, about how she would never bend the knee, about how Cardi B would never see a single dollar, even when the very platform she built her empire on were ordered to stop carrying her words. Well, in this filing that essentially serves as the autopsy report of her entire financial life, we get to see exactly how the alleged scheme played out behind closed doors. Although I am sure they would love to bury this paperwork, just like they tried to bury the original verdict, just like they tried to bury the contempt order, just like they tried to bury every single piece of evidence that ever inconvenienced their narrative. This is the filing where the LLC transfer is laid out. This is the filing where the house sale is laid out. This is the filing where the rerouted income is laid out. Well, I cannot read every single page to you on camera, but you can see the structure of the allegations, and the structure alone tells the story. Everyone named in that document is acting so calm, so confident, so casually denying everything, and you would think they could not be paid to acknowledge that a federal hammer is about to come crashing down on their entire household. Everyone is moving so quietly, so stiffly, so carefully, that the silence itself is the tell. And this was over nothing less monumental than the alleged fraudulent transfer of Keebi Studios LLC into Yelen Entertainment, the very company sitting in her husband's name. The very company that, according to the filing, exchanged exactly $0 in the so-called transaction. I already see the play there. They are really that desperate to try to engineer a financial vanishing act in front of a federal judge, the both of them. And while you might say, all right, this is one allegation, we cannot rush to judgment, we do not know what else could have been going on behind the scenes, that is exactly why this looks so flimsy on paper. I thought about that. And you know what? This is not where the story stops, because oh, do I have more? You loyalists are not going to enjoy this. So put those little defensive emojis away, because this was not a one-off accident. In a second pillar of the federal complaint, where the attorneys lay out the alleged rerouting of Tasha K's income through Yelen accounts, where her name was supposedly stripped from authorized bank signatures, where direct payments to her allegedly stopped entirely, you know, I love this. You see it right there. We can see somehow it gets even worse. Even more layers were peeled back. Even less of her original financial footprint remained. Even less of the so-called blogger empire was actually still standing in her own name. And specifically, you can see who benefited. There were 2 adults involved in the alleged scheme, and what were the receipts doing? They were quietly migrating as far away from her legal exposure as possible. Which, so much for the narrative that the more we hear them yell about how nothing was hidden and nothing was moved, the more it seems to get disproven, at least in this modern era of public records. And you know, while based on the way that her husband's company and the people circling around this couple have been pushing the line that everything was clean, with all these forced little radio appearances and curated podcast cameos that they were waving in everybody's faces on the timelines, pretty much saying to us, look, we are normal, we are fine, we are stable, go buy our merch, go support our channels, you would have thought the bankruptcy ruling was going to be the slap on the wrist they spent 2 years bragging about. But clearly we can see this federal complaint is hitting the public record. And all that is happening is that the entire shield is melting. And I would say if there was any chance for the Tasha K propaganda and image rehab campaign to actually hold together and to keep some of these followers from finally waking up to the obvious, well, the moment that 5,000 square foot Lawrenceville estate, the one sitting on both a golf course and a lake valued at $875,000, was allegedly sold to her own husband with no real money trail behind it, that was the moment the whole illusion collapsed. Shout out to every legal analyst breaking this down. These professionals are unbelievable. They have been crushing it with these breakdowns of the alleged fraudulent transfers. And whether they are placing the LLC dissolution side by side with the timeline of the original judgment, or whether they are doing the opposite, dissecting how transparent the alleged house sale looks once you compare the dates to the contempt rulings, we are seeing how much of a courtroom embarrassment this entire operation is shaping up to be. And again, how much of a grift is being run on the audience for people to believe otherwise, or for people to believe that this couple is somehow a sympathetic, victimized, persecuted household battling some imaginary giant. From the legal reality to the viral clip of Tasha K showing up on a radio station laughing and bragging that paying Barty would be light work, that she had $1,000 in some account they tried to seize, that her entourage was bigger than ever, that is hands down one of the most self-incriminating press moments in the history of celebrity legal feuds, and I will go as far as to say it because seriously with that clip, every time it resurfaces on my feed, every time it loops back into the algorithm, the comments under it keep growing, the screenshots keep multiplying. It had like 1 million views the last time I checked, and I keep laughing harder and harder every time. Well, I do think that with the real unbiased breakdowns, it has done a lot of negative PR for the positive PR plan that her team was trying to engineer around her. And it has already reversed a lot of that conditioning that was being aimed at the casual followers and the easily flipped short-term memory subscribers. And with all of this, I am not just saying that this so-called comeback tour is not landing when you are actually engaging with people who are processing the case with their own mind and not with Tasha K's voice memos in their head. But I am also saying that when you look at the way this story is moving outside, well, I am not even going to keep telling you. I am actually just going to walk you through it. I want everybody to think about what is being shown to you and what is being told to you because I have a tip. If everything is being told to you and nothing is being shown to you, it is probably not real. Well, I just want to lay out 2 different pieces of the public record that seem to be the cleanest snapshot of the moment we are watching unfold, and what is actually happening, which is going to show you that while Tasha K is publicly performing victory laps and never appearing more isolated, or at the very least we can 100% and definitively say that the bankruptcy bragging tour is no longer landing with the public, You remember that GoFundMe campaign that a lot of these loyalists are trying to pretend was actually a sign of community support, this rallying moment, this proof of love. Somebody compared it to a grassroots fundraiser, which is just telling me that a lot of you must be eating very well. Tasha K must be sending DoorDash and steakhouse gift cards to everybody. Well, this is what it actually looked like when that GoFundMe finally closed, falling nearly $4 million short of the goal, even with a shocking donation from Nicki Minaj attached to it. Do you see it? Well, one person is allegedly hiding assets, the other one is allegedly helping. And with these grand moments where we are seeing this couple's defense go through public scrutiny and fail, and the spin is getting more and more forced, and people like the loyalist commentators and all of the other bachelors competing to be the next Tasha K hype man are speaking on what this case means and how everything in the blogger ecosystem is moving and for the better because Tasha K is somehow back at the center of the conversation. Yet again, back to my point about showing and telling. They are telling us this, but what are we really seeing, and what are we actually being shown? Well, the point I am trying to make is that while loyalists and all of the other Tasha line mouthpieces who trade their credibility for a guest spot, a shout-out, or whatever other tiny benefits being adjacent to the blogger queen brings, well, when Cardi B drops a legal filing and when an attorney files a federal complaint that genuinely shifts the conversation, makes outside listen, and reframes the culture, just simply does it. We see the public consume the receipts. We see the screenshots everywhere. And we see the documents broken down in dozens of formats. And we do not see these forced campaigns shoving narratives down our ears while at the same time having the biggest commentators in the blogger ecosystem eat off of Tasha K's literal dime, and then tell us that she is back, and that everything else that has gone down in the courtroom is over, and that everything that went against her is gone. Well, again, we are not seeing any actual proof of that. I just have to say there is something so corporate, so forced, so performative about everything we are watching that is pro Tasha K right now. And I know some loyalist is going to say, how are you calling the Tasha K stuff corporate when Cardi B has lawyers like Lisa Moore backing her with major firepower? But you are missing the point. A real legal team is something that you earn by having an actual case to defend, and you only attract that kind of representation through legitimate, documented harm. But the results of that filing, the ruling already towers over the original verdict in scope. It is reflected in why a federal judge took this case seriously. Cardi B is the plaintiff with the paper trail. Do not try to be obtuse here. Just sit with the actual reality because when the original judgment dropped, the conversation was around Cardi, and everything was organic. Everything was rooted in the evidence and was an actual extension of the trial, and just with all of this stuff around Tasha K and how strange it feels. While you could argue we are not seeing any actual proof of the deception in the bankruptcy narrative, I do want to push back on that the more I think about it, because there is a blaringly obvious problem with the way everything has unfolded and with the way that people on different sides, but especially the Tasha K side, are framing things altogether. And it is very obvious. Multiple Tasha K mouthpieces, or people who support her or commentators who stake their reputations on defending her, well, we are seeing that they are committed to her no matter what document drops. And if your job is to report on entertainment in any honest capacity, think about someone in the blogger space who calls themselves a journalist and refers to themselves as unbiased. For someone like that to break bread with Tasha K, be a part of her bankruptcy press tour, and then receive whatever insider perks come with that level of access, that person had a meal and pretty much got a badge or a stamp confirming they are part of Tasha K's official defense team. The standards in entertainment commentary are so far in the gutter, and honestly, so many people are functionally illiterate across all different sectors of this space. I am not even just talking about on the Tasha K side of things that they will sit there and talk about pretty much inconsequential side details and not discuss the blaring issue with the fact that Tasha K is going on radio shows and pretty much confirming that an entire ecosystem of so-called journalists is on her payroll one way or another. Again, if any of these loyalists came out and admitted, I am biased, I am supporting Tasha K, it would be a completely different story. But for these people to be called unbiased reporters of the culture, for brands and platforms to push them as such, and for other commentators to validate it as well, to do something like this, I mean, just to compare it to the sports world for a second, there is a reason why when players and personalities or coaches and personalities, we have seen this happen in the NFL recently, get anywhere near each other in a way that compromises objectivity, it is an immediate breach of your contract. It is an immediate conflict of interest. And I know some of these bloggers operate cell phone platforms, but there are still consequences for it. Even the fact that nobody is having any meaningful conversation in terms of the gatekeepers, or the people on Tasha K's side are still trying to act like we are the biased ones, or we are the ones who are clearly compromised. It is genuinely insane because if any of these so-called culture analysts ever took a picture wearing a Tasha K bankruptcy fundraiser shirt, they would lose any last shred of credibility they had. It is just insane how different the standards are. And I honestly just say all of that to say, and really want to point this out because you have to understand how manufactured this all is. The bankruptcy narrative is not the thing actually keeping Tasha K afloat, but it is the noise surrounding it from these compromised personalities that she and her husband have built a small army around, posing as objective voices. And these moments we are watching of Tasha K failing inside the federal docket, that is what is showing us the reality. This moment is capturing it in its full capacity. While they are going to tell us the case is dead and the empire is back and the audience has chosen Tasha K once again, well, if the federal complaint looks like this, and the contempt order looks like this, and for the loyalists and the parasocial commentators of the world who tried to march around all year and create this almost sob story of how the blogger landscape felt so empty because Cardi B beat their queen in court, well, we should all feel bad, and once Tasha K would return, everything would be fixed. So, see her out now when she has a whole new federal complaint sitting on top of her. And this is what they are doing in the streets. This is what they are doing when these documents are read out in public. And we have seen other brand new filings from other cases in comparison to this one that have actually shifted and moved audiences in real time. Well, somebody is lying, and they are going to have to explain themselves, because you know, when it comes to how unbearable all these loyalists are becoming and why they are continuously acting like this, I think what we are seeing outside is the reason why. And what I mean by that is, I think the worst thing that happened with Tasha K, and I think this is going to end up being my read on the entire saga and how it is going to play out for a long time from here on out, is that for her, she committed to a defense strategy that is not as catastrophic as just publicly admitting everything. So right now, compared to where she was at the moment of the original verdict, the loyalists do not have to fully retreat or stay hidden in their little corner, because they know they cannot defend it. But at the same time, the bankruptcy gambit is so transparent, so under-engineered, or at the same time, its only remaining power comes from the delusional, grifting disbelief that Tasha K is pumping out there that it requires followers, and it is pushing those followers to be more delusional than ever. If you are a Tasha K supporter, and if you want this woman to walk out of this thing untouched, you are going to convince yourself that this transparent house transfer is some kind of clever legal play, and it is brilliant. And then you are trying to act like this case is somehow having the same effect on the culture as the original judgment that Cardi B started and won, and from that paper trail ended up amounting to in this exact moment. Yet again, it is not enough. Stop trying to do that. And that is the thing I think a lot of people did not realize, but everybody needs to be aware of it going forward, because they are lying to us and they are trying to play right in our faces. But the goal so clearly with Tasha K and everything she is doing right now, from the top down, from her husband and the company to all of the other commentators to the loyalists, is to try to engineer this sort of experiment where everybody is going to be convinced once again, just like they were for years and years, pretty much from the early blog era on, that she was much more credible than she ever was and ever will be. And they are going to try to gaslight as many people as possible into believing those same old talking points that built her to the position she was sitting in for that decade. And people inside her camp need to go this hard, because if these loyalists were not doing this, briefing all the other allied podcasters, and the rest of them were not using whatever other spin and crying they use time and time again to try and get by and to try and help the blogger queen, well, these filings and these failures would be all the conversation around the Cardi B federal case. And these failures and these moments of just seeing how the comeback is manufactured, it would be out there, and that is just it. That is the problem. That is the play. Remember it. Bookmark it. Write it down. Save it, and you will only see it become more and more true as time moves on, because the bankruptcy escape is a lie. It is a sham. It is a con. It is here to deceive you. And that is why we are at the point we are at. And the moment you sit with that reality long enough, the rest of the picture starts to fill itself in. Because think about what it actually takes for a federal court to take a contempt order, dust it off, and turn it into the foundation for a brand new fraud complaint. That does not happen by accident. That does not happen because a judge woke up in a bad mood. That happens because the paper trail behind the scenes was so thick, so coordinated, so suspiciously timed, that even the most cautious federal court could not look at the LLC dissolution, the spousal asset transfer, the rerouted income, the disappearing bank signatures, and the $500,000 property reshuffle without flagging every single piece of it. And the most telling part of all of it is the silence. Watch the timeline. Watch who stopped posting when the May 6th filing dropped. Watch the social media accounts that suddenly went quiet. Watch the radio appearances that were quietly canceled. Watch the podcast cameos quietly pulled from the schedule. Watch the comments getting locked one by one. Silence is not innocence. Silence in a legal case of this magnitude is a tactic. And anybody who has watched a single celebrity defamation case unravel in real time can already tell you, the moment the talking stops is the moment the lawyers have taken the megaphone away. Because every single sentence Tasha K speaks in public from this point forward becomes a potential exhibit. Every single live stream becomes potential evidence. Every single radio laugh becomes potential ammunition. And her legal team knows it. The husband's legal team knows it. The loyalist commentators who have suddenly become a lot more careful with their phrasing know it too. So when you see the volume going down, do not mistake that for the case going away. The case is not going away. The case is intensifying. The case is shifting into the part of the litigation where the only people allowed to speak are the ones holding bar cards. And that is a very different chapter from the one Tasha K spent 2 years performing on every platform she could log into. But here is where this story actually takes its most explosive, most dangerous, and most catastrophic turn yet. Because while Cardi B's federal warhead was busy detonating across Atlanta courtrooms and quietly dismantling the foundation Tasha K and Cheick Ndikibe built around their suburban estate, a second scandal was beginning to bleed into the timeline at the exact same moment. And insiders with direct access to the situation are warning that what is unfolding around Cheyenne Bryant could become the single most damaging credential fraud story to gut the celebrity wellness industry in living memory. Cheyenne Bryant, who has been aggressively branding herself as a legitimate doctor of psychology to the most vulnerable audiences imaginable, audiences searching for real mental health guidance during the most fragile chapters of their lives, has now allegedly been exposed as operating under an academic identity that does not stand up to a 5-minute background check. And now, in what insiders are calling a calculated, almost choreographed pivot designed to absorb the legal shockwave heading her way, she has been observed in real time leaning harder and harder into theological vocabulary, wrapping herself in scripture, leaning on religious authority, and reframing herself as some kind of spiritual counselor in what sources describe as a last-second attempt to construct a brand new identity before the courtroom doors swing open. The truth about her doctorate, the one she has been waving in front of cameras, the one she has been printing on her promotional material, is that it came from Harvard Christian University Royal School, an institution that has handed out honorary doctorates to Busta Rhymes, T.I. Tiny Harris, Dame Dash, Tank, Cedric the Entertainer, Johnny Gill, Ralph Tresvant, Ruben Studdard, Michael Irvin, Dave Hollister, Carl Thomas, and in what sources are calling the most absurd academic ceremony ever to be put on paper, posthumously awarded honorary degrees to both the notorious B.I.G. and Malcolm X on the very same day, technically making two of the most iconic figures in Black history official classmates and alumni of the exact same institution that just handed Cheyenne Bryant her so-called doctorate. Let that sink in for a moment. While Aretha Franklin collected 13 honorary doctorates from Harvard, from Princeton, from Yale, while Stevie Wonder was recognized by Fordham, by Rutgers, by Howard University, while Missy Elliott was honored by Berklee College of Music, Cheyenne Bryant received her so-called doctorate from the same ceremony that handed academic credentials to people who had been deceased for decades. And now, according to insider sources, she is attempting to weaponize that title as a legal shield, theological armor designed to deflect the alleged fraud allegations that are threatening to dismantle the entire brand she spent years building. Insiders are warning that the religious pivot is not a coincidence. It is a strategy. It is documented. And her team is fully aware that the honorary doctorate from Harvard Christian, while technically allowing her to print the letters in front of her name, carries zero equivalence to a legitimate psychology credential. And here is where it gets even more dangerous for her, because sources are warning that any single person who sought, paid for, or acted on mental health guidance from Bryant under the belief that she held a legitimate doctoral degree in psychology could potentially have standing for a civil claim. And the number of people potentially exposed by that fact is shockingly larger than anyone has publicly admitted on camera. The dark truth that sources keep circling back to is that Harvard Christian University's accreditation runs through the Kingdom of Hawaii Royal Accreditation Commission, an entity whose own legitimacy is openly questioned by anybody in academic circles who has spent more than 30 seconds looking into it, which means the legal cover protecting Bryant's continued use of the doctoral title may be sitting on the thinnest, most paper-fragile foundation imaginable. And there is a layer underneath this credential story that almost nobody is talking about, and it is one of the most disturbing parts of the entire situation, so I have to lay it out clearly. Mental health is not a side hustle. It is not a content vertical. It is not a launchpad for a brand. The people who reach out to someone presenting themselves as a doctor of psychology are not casual consumers. They are not background characters in somebody else's monetization strategy, and they are not data points. They are real human beings, often at the lowest emotional altitude of their entire lives, often making decisions about medication, about relationships, about whether to stay or leave their own families, often in moments that will define the rest of their lifetimes. And to hand those people guidance under a credential that was never built to authorize that kind of advice, that is not a small branding misstep. That is, according to legal analysts watching this story, a potential civil exposure with a footprint that could be larger than anything currently filed. And the more sources you talk to, the more this part of the story stops being about Cheyenne Bryant the personality and starts being about every person who walked into her orbit believing they were sitting across from someone licensed to help. The pivot towards scripture is not just optics. It is, according to insiders, a calculated attempt to relocate her brand into a category where there is less regulatory exposure, less licensing scrutiny, and less liability for outcomes. And that, more than the ceremony, more than the notorious B.I.G. and Malcolm X paperwork, more than the Hawaiian Royal Accreditation footnote, is the part of this scandal that legal observers say could land the hardest once the first civil complaint actually hits the docket. And just when you thought the federal fraud conspiracy and the alleged credential fraud scandal could not get any more explosive, a third storyline is detonating right now in the background, and sources are warning that it could reignite the entire Stefan Diggs legal nightmare with consequences that nobody in his camp has prepared for. Chef Milan, refusing to accept anything resembling defeat in what insiders are calling a dangerously obsessive personal campaign, has now leaked private text messages between herself and Cardi B's hair braider Cheick Charles in what sources are describing as a calculated, methodical attempt to construct a civil lawsuit against Stefan Diggs. The texts, which Milan published online in a way that legal analysts are already calling reckless, allegedly expose a web of alleged perjury, alleged bribery, including a shocking alleged $100,000 offer to recant testimony, and a dangerously tangled web of loyalties that has left every single person tethered to this situation sitting inside the worst possible legal exposure. Sources with direct insider knowledge are warning that Chef Milan is not done. She is not pulling back. She is not retreating. She is fishing methodically and patiently for a single recorded statement from Cheick Charles that could explosively crack open a case that nearly sent Stefan Diggs into prison walls for 5 years. And this time, because the route is civil and not criminal, the financial stakes could end up catastrophically higher than the original trial ever threatened. And I just have to say, there is something so corporate, so coordinated, so suspiciously parallel about the way all three of these storylines are colliding at the exact same moment. Because remember, you have Tasha K and Cheick Ndikibe under federal review for the alleged fraudulent transfers, you have Cheyenne Bryant under public scrutiny for the alleged credential fraud, and you have Chef Milan and Cheick Charles in the middle of a private message warfare campaign that could reignite a 5-year sentence into a multi-million-dollar civil exposure. Everywhere you turn, the same patterns appear. The denial, the pivot, the mockery, the fake confidence, the performative bravado on radio shows, the selective leaks, the strategic framing, the recruitment of loyalist commentators, the painting of Cardi B as the aggressor when every single one of these storylines was triggered, directly or indirectly, by behavior aimed at her. And that is the real story here. That is the through line. That is the connective tissue. The blogger queen, the credential queen, and the personal chef. 3 women, 3 legal exposures, 1 common factor sitting at the center of the storm. And listen, I know how loud some of these supporters are going to get in the comments. I know the same 5 copy-pasted defenses are going to be flying around like confetti. But here is the part you cannot miss. Cardi B has now sued the husband. Not just Tasha K. The husband, Cheick Ndikibe, is now named in federal court alongside Yelen Entertainment, and the attorneys, who insiders confirm are operating at an undefeated level of legal precision, are working to prove that Yelen Entertainment is the legal successor to Keebi Studios, which would make every asset of his fair game for collection. Read that twice. Every asset, fair game. The walls are not closing in on this household. The walls have already closed. The locks have already turned. The keys have already been taken. And the moment that house transfer paperwork is placed side by side with the LLC dissolution paperwork in front of a federal jury, the legal experts watching this case are quietly admitting that the final number could end up significantly worse than the original $3.8 million judgment that started all of this. But here is the deeper truth that everyone needs to sit with. None of this is about money anymore. Not really. It is about precedent. It is about whether a culture full of bloggers, fake doctors, opportunistic personal staff, and parasocial commentators can keep operating with zero accountability because they assume the people they are attacking will eventually run out of energy, run out of patience, run out of money, run out of fight. And Cardi B has now answered that question in the loudest, most courtroom documented, most legally definitive way possible. She did not run out. She did not back down. She did not blink. She did not negotiate. She watched the violations stack up. She watched the GoFundMe fail. She watched the radio mockery. She watched the bankruptcy maneuver. She watched the alleged asset shuffle. And then she returned with a federal complaint that did not just target Tasha K. It targeted the entire ecosystem propping her up. And while the loyalists, the blogger commentators, the parasocial defenders, and the rest of the recycled choir keep telling us that the case is over and the queen is back and the audience has moved on, what we are actually seeing in real time is the opposite of that story. We are watching the slow, paper-by-paper dismantling of an empire that thought it was untouchable. We are watching what happens when somebody finally pulls the receipts out and lays them on the courtroom floor. And we are watching the most expensive lesson in celebrity legal history delivered in slow motion, with every beat documented, screenshotted, and broadcast across every platform the original empire was built on. So now, with all of that said, let me know, what do you think about what is happening here? This is just such a surreal moment to be watching unfold in real time. And I have to admit, There is something almost cinematic about watching a woman who built her brand on exposing others end up being exposed by the very legal system she swore would never catch her. Well, if you want to see how the next chapter of this saga is shaping up, because trust me, the federal motion calendar alone is going to make the next 30 days one of the most explosive runs of legal content the celebrity space has ever delivered. And we are going to be tracking every single filing, every single hearing, every single motion, every single sealed exhibit that drops. Well then just be sure to leave a like, hit subscribe, and push this video up the algorithm. You are amazing and it helps me out more than you can imagine, especially right now. I cannot thank you enough for the support, especially in the middle of all of this. Something very unusual is happening, both from the side of Tasha K and what her husband is allegedly strategizing in the background, but also on the PR side of it as well, with the loyalists and other commentators speaking in the most rehearsed cadence. It is getting very strange the way the language and the rhetoric are moving, but we will leave that there for now. I am sure we are going to have to revisit it. But in the meantime, if you want to see how the possibility of the Cheyenne Bryant credential investigation is only becoming more real, and listen, I am just going to tell you right here that storyline is dropping. It is just a matter of finding the right paper trail to pull on. And what we really can conclude from it, just in terms of how this is all going to shape up and how it is going to bring an end to the ridiculous parade we are watching from all of these loyalists right now, well, you are not going to want to miss the next one because there is going to be a lot of payoff coming very soon. So be sure to check out the suggested video.